The three alien ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Commander Vextar stared at the blue planet through the viewscreen of his flagship, the dominant sky. After traveling for months to reach this place, he felt a mix of hope and worry. Long-range scans complete, Commander, reported his science officer. The third planet shows signs of recent habitation, large cities, transport networks, and power systems are all intact. Vextar's scaled hands gripped the armrest of his command chair. His people, the Zephyrians, had been running for 3 years since their homeworld died. This system had been sending out radio signals for decades. The signals suggested a young civilization that might welcome peaceful contact. Any signs of the inhabitants? Vextar asked. That's the strange part, sir. All the cities appear empty. No movement, no new transmissions, no ships in orbit. It's like they just vanished. On the moon of the blue planet, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien ships through his hidden observation post. He had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. His weathered face showed no surprise as he studied the three vessels on his screen. They're here, Morrison said to his team of 11 specialists. Right on schedule. Double quotes. Dr. Lisa Harper looked up from her xenobiology station. The ships matched the design we predicted. Reptilian builders. Probably. Look at those curved hulls and the way they position their weapons. Morrison nodded. He had spent 3 decades preparing for this day. When Earth's governments decided to evacuate the planet, most people thought it was because they feared alien invasion. Only a few knew the real reason. Earth wasn't being abandoned. It was being turned into the perfect test. Lieutenant Ben Carter spoke from his communication post. I'm picking up their transmissions, Captain. They seem confused about finding the planet empty. Good, Morrison replied. Let them wonder. Keep monitoring everything they say. The alien fleet moved slowly toward Earth. Commander Vextar ordered his ships to take defensive positions around the planet. His people needed a new home, but they had learned to be careful. Too many times they had found worlds that seemed perfect, only to discover hidden dangers. Send the deep probe to scan the major population centers, Vextar commanded. Ironclaw will maintain overwatch. We take no chances. The science vessel broke away from the formation and headed toward Earth's surface. As it passed over the continents, its sensors revealed an impossible sight. Massive cities stood completely intact, but totally empty. Cars sat in perfect rows on highways going nowhere. Lights still functioned in empty buildings. Power plants ran without operators. Dr. Harper watched the alien ship pass over New York City. They're being very careful, she noted to Morrison. No aggressive moves, no attempts to land immediately. They're scared. They should be, Morrison said quietly. They don't know what they're walking into. The truth was more complex than the aliens could imagine. 35 years ago, Earth's best scientists had detected the approaching refugee fleet through deep space monitoring. Instead of preparing for war, humanity had made a different choice. They would test these aliens before making contact. Project Exodus had moved Earth's entire population to hidden colonies throughout the outer solar system. Every human had participated in the greatest deception in history. Earth would appear abandoned, but it would be watching, always watching. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez checked her instruments at the lunar base. All monitoring stations are green. Captain, we have full surveillance coverage of the planet. They can't move without us knowing. Morrison felt pride in his species. While other races might have built weapons or tried to hide, humans had built something better. They had built a test that would reveal the true nature of any visitors to their world. The alien science vessel finally entered Earth's atmosphere. It flew low over London, Paris, and Tokyo. Each city showed the same pattern, recent abandonment, but no signs of destruction or panic. It looked like everyone had simply decided to leave at the same time. Commander Vextar received the reports with growing confusion. How does an entire species just disappear? He asked his officers. The infrastructure suggests they were advanced enough for space travel, but we see no signs of Exodus ships or orbital facilities. His tactical officer spoke up. Perhaps they detected our approach and fled, sir. Fled where? Vextar replied. Our sensors show no signs of large-scale ship movements. It's like they just vanished into thin air, on Luna. Morrison smiled at the alien commander's confusion. The evacuation had taken 5 years to complete. With ships leaving in small groups to avoid detection, every departure had been carefully timed and planned. The last transport had left Earth exactly 6 months ago. Dr. Harper continued studying the aliens through her advanced sensors. They're definitely refugees, not conquerors, she reported. Look at their ship configurations. Those are colony vessels, not warships. They're looking for a new home. Morrison watched as the alien science ship finally landed in Central Park. 3 figures in environmental suits stepped out and began collecting samples. Their movements were careful and respectful. They didn't damage anything or claim territory. Interesting, Morrison said. They're treating our world with respect. Carter picked up new transmissions. They're reporting back to their commander. They sound amazed by our technology, especially our computer networks. Apparently our internet is still running. Perfectly, of course it was. Morrison's people had spent years automating Earth's systems. The planet would continue functioning for decades without human presence. It was the perfect bait for the perfect trap. The first test subjects had arrived. Now humanity would learn what kind of neighbors they might have among the stars. Morrison settled back in his chair to watch. After 30 years of preparation, the real work was just beginning. The abandoned Earth waited silently below, its secrets hidden, its watchers alert. The greatest deception in human history had entered its final phase. 3 months had passed since the aliens first landed on Earth. Commander Vextar stood in what used to be Times Square, watching his people work. They had set up a research camp in the heart of Manhattan, trying to understand the humans who had left this world behind. The Zephyrians had made little progress. Every day brought new mysteries about human technology. Their scientists struggled with devices that human children could operate. Simple computers refused to work for alien. Hence, even basic electrical systems seemed designed in ways that made no sense to Zephyrian minds. On the moon, Captain Morrison watched through hidden cameras as the aliens worked. Dr. Lisa Harper sat beside him, taking notes on everything the visitors did. They're not getting anywhere with our technology, Harper observed. Look at that group trying to figure out a simple smartphone. They've been at it for 2 weeks. Morrison nodded. The aliens were clearly intelligent, but their minds worked differently than humans. They had faster-than-light travel, which meant they were far ahead of humanity in some ways. But they seemed completely baffled by human logic systems. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez studied the alien equipment from her monitoring station. Their technology is fascinating, she said. Everything runs on crystal matrices instead of circuits. No wonder they can't understand our binary systems. Lieutenant Ben Carter looked up from his communication post. I've been listening to their transmissions, Captain. They're not trying to conquer anything. They keep talking about finding a new home. Morrison felt a mix of relief and concern. The aliens seemed peaceful, but that could change. More importantly, his long-range sensors had detected something troubling. Another fleet was coming toward Earth. Dr. Harper noticed Morrison's worried expression. What is it? Captain, we've got company coming, Morrison replied. Long-range sensors picked up 12 ships approaching from the outer system. They're not Zephyrian designs. Carter quickly switched to deep space monitoring frequencies. After a few minutes, he looked up with concern. Captain, I'm picking up military communications from the incoming fleet. They're looking for our current visitors. Down on Earth, the Zephyrians continued their work. They had begun studying human art and literature, trying to understand the species that had built such an advanced civilization. Commander Vextar walked through the empty halls of the Metropolitan Museum, amazed by what he found. His science officer, Kex Mai, joined him near a display of ancient human weapons. Commander, these humans were clearly warriors once, but their recent technology shows no signs of military focus. Most of their satellites were for communication and research. Vextar studied a medieval sword behind glass. Perhaps they evolved. Beyond the need for weapons, their cities show no signs of conflict or fortification. What the alien commander didn't know was that human cities had been carefully prepared. For this inspection, all military equipment had been removed or hidden. Only civilian technology remained visible. Morrison's people wanted to see how the aliens would react to a seemingly peaceful civilization. Amy Rodriguez monitored the alien attempts to access human computer networks. The internet still functioned perfectly, maintained by automated systems. But every time the aliens tried to access sensitive information, they hit carefully designed barriers. They're trying to learn about human history again, Rodriguez reported, but they can only access the information we want them to see. Morrison had spent years deciding what the aliens should discover. They could read about human art, science, and culture. But military history, weapons technology, and anything about Project Exodus remained hidden. Sergeant Pete Williams, the team's tactical specialist, studied the approaching fleet through long-range telescopes. "Captain, those ships are definitely warships, heavy armor, multiple weapon systems, and they're moving fast." "How long until they arrive?" Morrison asked. 6 weeks, maybe less if they push their engines. Morrison faced a difficult decision. The Zephyrians seemed like decent people who just wanted a new home. But the approaching fleet clearly meant trouble. If a battle happened in Earth's orbit, the planet could be damaged or destroyed. Down in Manhattan, Commander Vextar received an urgent message from his ships in orbit. His communication officer's voice was filled with worry. "Commander, we're detecting an approaching fleet. 12 vessels, heavily armed. The energy signatures match Korthic Empire designs." Vextar felt his blood turn cold. The Korthics had been hunting his people for years. They had destroyed the Zephyrian homeworld and chased the survivors across the galaxy. If they found the refugee fleet here, they would attack without mercy. "How long do we have?" Vextar asked. 6 weeks, sir, maybe less." The alien commander looked around at the empty human city. His people had hoped to make this world their new home. Now it might become their grave. On Luna, Morrison watched the alien leader's reaction through hidden cameras. The fear in Vextar's body language was clear. These aliens were running from something, and that something was almost here. "Captain," Harper said quietly, "we need to make a decision. Do we maintain our cover and let whatever happens happen? Or do we reveal ourselves?" Morrison stared at the Earth hanging in the black sky above them. 30 years of planning had led to this moment. The test was working perfectly. The Zephyrians had shown themselves to be respectful visitors, who treated human achievements with wonder and care. But now a military fleet was coming to destroy them. If Morrison stayed hidden, Earth might be caught in the crossfire. If he revealed himself, 30 years of careful preparation would be wasted. "Keep monitoring," Morrison said finally. "We need more information before we decide anything." The Hidden Watchers continued their vigil as the alien fleets moved toward a confrontation above the abandoned Earth. Soon, Morrison would have to choose between maintaining humanity's greatest secret and protecting the world his people had left behind. Time was running out, and the test was about to become something much more dangerous. The Korthic fleet arrived 2 days early. 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace like angry metal beasts. Their black holes were covered with weapon ports and armor plating. These were not exploration vessels. These were ships built for one purpose: destruction. Captain Morrison watched from his lunar command post as the enemy fleet took positions around Earth. His hands gripped the edge of his control panel. 30 years of planning had led to this moment, and he had to make the most important decision in human history. "Captain," Lieutenant Ben Carter said from his communication station, "the Korthic Admiral is broadcasting to the Zephyrian ships. He's demanding their immediate surrender." Morrison listened to the translation. The Korthic Admiral's voice was cold and filled with hate. He gave the refugees 1 hour to prepare for capture. After that, he would begin destroying everything in the system, down on Earth. Commander Vextar received the message in his Manhattan command center. His people had hoped for more time to prepare defenses, but the Korthics had found them too quickly. The Zephyrian ships were lightly armed colony vessels. They couldn't fight 12 warships. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "our ships are moving to defensive positions. But we can't win this fight. Should we consider evacuation?" Vextar looked out at the empty human city around him. "Where will we go? Our ships are low on fuel, and the Korthics will hunt us across the galaxy. This is our last stand." Morrison had heard enough. He turned to his team on the lunar base, opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian commander. "It's time to end this test." Dr. Lisa Harper looked surprised. "Captain, are you sure? Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The test is over," Morrison said firmly. "These people have proven what they are. They've treated our world with respect for 3 months. They've studied our culture instead of destroying it. They have shown us they can be trusted." Carter opened the channel. Morrison took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. "Commander Vextar, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Deep Space Observation Corps. Please respond on this frequency." The silence that followed lasted for nearly a minute. Then Vextar's voice came through, filled with shock and confusion. "Human, you're alive. Where are you? We're closer than you think." "Commander, we need to meet face to face. Are you willing to come to the United Nations building in 1 hour? But your people, where did they go? We thought Earth was abandoned. Morrison smiled grimly. Earth was never abandoned. Commander, we've been watching you the entire time. 1 hour later, Morrison stood in the empty United Nations General Assembly Hall. Dr. Harper and Communications Officer Kelly Davis were with him. They had taken a transport from the lunar base, using stealth systems to avoid detection by the Korthic fleet. Commander Vexstar entered the building with 2 of his officers. The alien leader was tall and covered in green scales. His yellow eyes showed intelligence and deep worry. When he saw the humans, he stopped in surprise. "You're real," Vexstar said. "We thought we were imagining things." Morrison stepped forward. "We're very real, Commander, and we have a lot to explain." Dr. Harper activated a holographic display that filled the air above them. It showed the solar system with hidden human installations marked in blue dots. There were hundreds of them. Earth was never abandoned, Morrison explained. 35 years ago, we detected your refugee fleet approaching our system. Instead of preparing for war, we decided to test you. Vexstar stared at the display. The blue dots were everywhere. Hidden bases on asteroids, cloak stations in orbit, weapon platforms disguised as space debris. The entire solar system was a trap. You evacuated your entire planet just to test us? Vexstar asked. We needed to know what kind of people you were. Morrison replied. Would you destroy our cities and take what you wanted? Would you try to learn about us? Would you respect what we built? Technical specialist Ryan Cooper joined the group, carrying a tablet with data about the past 3 months. You passed every test. Commander, your people have been careful and respectful. You've studied our art and tried to understand our culture. You've taken nothing that wasn't freely available. Vexstar began to understand the enormous scope of what the humans had done. The entire evacuation, the automated systems, the way our technology couldn't interface with yours, it was all planned, every detail. Morrison confirmed. We've been developing defensive technologies for decades while hiding in the outer system. We needed to know if you were potential allies or enemies before we revealed ourselves. Kelly Davis stepped forward with another tablet. We've also been monitoring your communications. Commander, we know about your destroyed homeworld. We know the Korthics have been hunting you. We know you're not conquerors, just people looking for a new home. The sound of weapons fire in space interrupted their conversation. Through the building's windows, they could see flashes of light as the Korthic fleet began its attack on the Zephyrian ships. We have to help them, Vexstar said, moving toward the door. Morrison caught his arm. Commander, your ships don't have to fight alone. The human captain activated a communication device. This is Morrison to all hidden stations. Execute Operation Homecoming. Decloak all defensive platforms. Activate all weapon systems. Show our guests what Earth's real defenses look like. Throughout the solar system, hundreds of hidden installations suddenly appeared on sensors. Asteroid bases revealed massive gun batteries. Cloak stations dropped their stealth fields. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as debris-powered up their systems. The Korthic admiral found himself facing not 3 lightly armed refugee ships, but an entire solar system that had become a fortress. Earth hadn't been abandoned. It had been turned into the center of the most sophisticated defensive network in the galaxy. Welcome to Earth, Commander, Morrison said to the stunned Zephyrian leader. Your real home. If you want it, the test was over, the trap was sprung, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they had learned. During 30 years of patient watching and careful preparation, the space around Earth exploded into action. Hidden weapon platforms throughout the asteroid belt came online, their targeting systems locking onto the Korthic warships. Cloaked defense stations appeared like ghosts becoming solid, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor and powerful guns. Admiral Kexather of the Korthic fleet stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Moments ago, he had been facing 3 weak refugee ships. Now his sensors showed over 200 armed installations surrounding his fleet. The primitive system had become a death trap. How is this possible? He demanded from his command chair. Our scouts reported this system was barely civilized. His tactical officer's voice shook with fear. Admiral, these installations are using technology we've never seen. Their energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. In the United Nations building, Commander Vexstar watched the display screens with amazement. The humans had not just hidden from his people. They had built the most advanced defensive network he had ever seen. Your weapons technology Vexstar said to Captain Morrison. It's completely different from ours. How long have you been preparing this? Morrison smiled grimly. 35 years of focused development, while you were running from the Cortex. We were studying every piece of information we could gather. About galactic warfare, we learned from everyone's mistakes. Dr. Harper pulled up technical displays showing the hybrid systems they had developed. Human adaptability combined with defensive thinking. We don't build ships to chase enemies across the galaxy. We build systems to make attacking us impossible. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space. Corthic energy beams struck human shield generators and scattered harmlessly. Human projectile weapons, accelerated by magnetic fields, to incredible speeds, punched through Corthic armor like paper. Engineer Amy Rodriguez coordinated the defense from her station on Luna. All platforms responding perfectly. Captain, the Corthics are using standard energy weapons. Our adaptive shielding is absorbing everything they throw at us. The human defensive strategy became clear as the battle continued. Every installation had been positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. The Corthics couldn't attack one position without exposing themselves to 3 others. They were caught in a web of crossfire that made victory impossible. Commander Vexstar realized the genius of the human approach. You didn't just test our intentions, you tested our worthiness as allies. Morrison nodded. Any species that found Earth had to prove they deserved our friendship. You did that by treating our world with respect. The Corthics are proving they deserve something else entirely. Technical specialist Ryan Cooper worked alongside Zephyrian scientist Kex Mai to integrate their technologies. The 2 species had very different approaches to engineering, but their combination created something more powerful than either could achieve alone. Human projectile systems with Zephyrian energy guidance, Cooper explained as he worked. Your people can direct our weapons with precision we never imagined. Kex Mai was equally excited. And your defensive calculations combined with our shield harmonics. The energy efficiency is incredible. The partnership was working better than Morrison had hoped. Human tactical thinking merged with Zephyrian technical knowledge created new possibilities for both species. Lieutenant Carter established communication with the returning human fleet. The massive colony ships that had been hiding in the outer reaches of the system began moving toward Earth orbit. These were not just evacuation vessels. They were mobile fortresses carrying 30 years of advanced technology. The cavalry is coming, Carter reported. 47 colony ships, all armed with the latest defensive systems. They'll be in range in 6 hours. Admiral Kexather realized his situation was hopeless. His 12 warships were facing an entire solar system that had been turned into a fortress. Worse, his enemy seemed to know exactly how Corthic weapons worked and had built specific countermeasures. Admiral, his science officer reported, they're not just defending, they're studying us. Every shot we fire gives them more data about our systems. The Corthic commander felt fear for the first time in decades. His fleet had destroyed dozens of worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. These humans fought like they had been preparing for this exact battle for years, because they had been. Morrison watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Signal the Corthic flagship, Lieutenant. It's time to end this. Carter opened the communication channel. Morrison's voice carried across space to the enemy admiral. Admiral Kexather, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to order your fleet to retreat. This is your only warning. The alien admiral's response was filled with rage. You dare threaten the Corthic Empire? We have conquered 100 worlds. We will not retreat from primitives. Your choice, Morrison replied calmly. Ryan, show them what we learned about their shield frequencies. Cooper activated a special weapons array that had been built specifically for Corthic technology. The beams that struck the enemy flagship didn't try to overpower its shields. Instead, they vibrated at exactly the right frequency to make the shields tear themselves apart. The flagship's defenses collapsed in seconds. Similar beams struck the other Corthic ships, leaving them helpless before the human weapons. Impossible, Admiral Kexather whispered as his ship's systems failed around him. Morrison's voice came through the communication system again. We've been watching the galaxy for 35 years, Admiral. We know exactly how your technology works. We know your weaknesses. We know your strengths. And we built our defenses accordingly. The truth hit the Corthic commander like a physical blow. These humans hadn't just hidden from the galaxy. They had been studying it, learning from it, preparing for every possible threat. Retreat, Admiral Kexather ordered his fleet. All ships, retreat immediately. The Korthic warships began pulling back, their weapons powered down, their shields flickering as human technology continued to interfere with their systems. Commander Vexstar watched the enemy fleet flee and turned to Morrison with new respect. "You didn't just test us, you tested yourselves. You proved that humanity could stand against any threat in the galaxy." Morrison looked out at the stars where human ships were finally coming home. "The test is complete, Commander. Earth is no longer abandoned, and neither are you." 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Earth was alive again. Human colony ships filled the orbital stations while Zephyrian vessels worked alongside them. The planet that had seemed abandoned now buzzed with activity from the species working together. Captain Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Command Station. Through the windows, he could see Earth's blue surface dotted with lights from returning cities. The Great Deception was over, and humanity had gained something they never expected to find: true allies among the stars. Commander Vexstar joined Morrison at the window. The Zephyrian leader had spent months learning about human culture and was amazed by what he discovered. "Your people planned all of this," Vexstar said. "Every detail, every possibility. You turned your greatest weakness into your greatest strength." Morrison nodded. "We knew we couldn't fight the galaxy with brute force, so we learned to fight with patience and intelligence instead." Dr. Lisa Harper approached them with a data tablet. "Captain, the integration reports are complete. Human and Zephyrian technologies work better together than we ever imagined. Our defensive capabilities have improved by 300%. The partnership had exceeded everyone's expectations. Human tactical thinking combined with Zephyrian energy manipulation created weapons and defenses that neither species could have built alone. The alliance was making both peoples stronger." Engineer Amy Rodriguez had been working with Zephyrian scientists to upgrade Earth's defense network. "We're not just preparing for the next Korthic attack," she reported. "We're building something that can protect any world that wants to join our alliance." Morrison smiled at that idea. The test that had started with Earth might become a model for the entire galaxy. Instead of conquering worlds or running from enemies, civilizations could work together to build unbreakable defenses. Technical specialist Ryan Cooper had been studying data from the battle. "Captain, we've learned something important about the Korthics. They're not just random attackers. They're systematically destroying worlds that might become threats to their empire, which means there are other species out there like the Zephyrians," Dr. Harper added. "Refugees running from Korthic aggression, peoples who might become our allies if we can find them." Morrison felt a new sense of purpose. Earth's test had been successful, but it was just the beginning. Humanity could become protectors for other peaceful species threatened by galactic bullies. Lieutenant Ben Carter had been monitoring deep space communications. "Captain, I'm picking up distress signals from the Vegan system. The signatures match what we detected from Zephyrian ships before they arrived here." Commander Vexstar studied the data. "Those are definitely refugee vessels, probably running from another Korthic attack fleet." Morrison made his decision quickly. How long would it take to set up a defensive network in the Vegan system? Rodriguez checked her calculations. "With Zephyrian help and mobile platforms, maybe 3 months. "Then that's what we'll do," Morrison declared. "We'll offer the same test to these new refugees. If they prove themselves worthy, they join our alliance. If they don't, they keep moving." The idea excited both human and Zephyrian officers. Earth's test could be repeated anywhere in the galaxy. They could build a network of allied worlds, each one protected by the combined technologies of all member species. Dr. Harper brought up a galactic map showing known Korthic movements. "If we're right about their strategy, there are dozens of refugee fleets out there, entire species homeless because of Korthic aggression. Then we have work to do," Morrison said firmly. Over the following weeks, the joint human-Zephyrian fleet prepared for their first mission beyond Sol. Mobile defense platforms were loaded onto colony ships. Advanced sensors were installed on scout vessels. The Alliance was ready to extend its protection to others. The night before departure, Morrison walked through the streets of New York City. The lights were on again, and people filled the sidewalks. Human children played with young Zephyrians in Central Park. The two species were becoming one people. Commander Vexstar found Morrison sitting on a bench near the United Nations building, where they had first met. "Do you think it will work?" Vexstar asked. "Can we really build an alliance that spans the galaxy?" Morrison looked up at the stars visible through the city's glow. 35 years ago, we made a choice to test rather than fight. That choice saved both our peoples. Now we have the chance to save others. The Korthiks won't give up, Vexar warned. They'll adapt to our tactics eventually. Then we'll adapt too, Morrison replied. That's what humans do best. We learn, we grow, and we find new ways to protect what matters. The next morning, the joint fleet departed Earth for the Vegan system. Behind them, the blue planet continued its slow rotation, no longer abandoned, no longer alone. Hidden sensors and defense platforms maintained their watch, ready to protect the world that had become the heart of something greater. Earth had tested its first visitors and found them worthy. Now it would help test others, building an alliance of worlds bound together by mutual respect and shared defense. The Watchers had become guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same. In deep space, Admiral Kexather of the Korthik Empire studied reports of the failed attack on Sol. His analysts were baffled by human defensive technology, but he was beginning to understand something more dangerous than advanced weapons. The humans hadn't just built better defenses, they had built hope. Species across the galaxy were hearing about the alliance between Earth and the Zephyrian refugees. Other refugee fleets were changing course, heading toward systems where they might find protection instead of conquest. The Korthik way of ruling through fear was being challenged by something they had never faced before, a galaxy learning to fight back. Admiral Kexather ordered his fleet to increase their attacks on refugee vessels. But it was too late. The idea had already spread. Across the galaxy, civilizations were beginning to work together, sharing technologies and building defenses. Earth had started something that would transform the stars themselves. The abandoned world had become the foundation of galactic freedom, and humanity's greatest test had become their greatest triumph.